Should the West engage with Iran's Islamic government? The question sparks heated debate. Today, Bernard Hourcade, French scholar, offers his insights. Is there room for diplomacy? What are the concerns? We'll explore these issues and more to challenge your assumptions about Iran.
Please introduce yourself and what you do, a little bit about yourself for our viewers.
I am Bernard Hourcade. I am a geographer. I studied in Bordeaux, and I had the privilege to go to Tehran. It was the first time in September 1970, in the time of the Shah, just after the coronation of the Shah, and before the Persepolis and Jamshid events, the good old time of the Shah. And I started studying rural development in the mountains, so I had the pleasure and the privilege to walk from village to village, from Alamut to Firouzkou during the summers, and in winter I was, of course, a teacher at university. And I was back in Iran in '78 on the day of Eid al-Fitr, the day of the first huge demonstration in Iran between Reitarieh and Mr. Charesfand, and the beginning of revolution. So I had the privilege to see the collapse of the Shah, the revolution, collapse of the Shah, the coming of Khomeini, the Iran-Iraq war. And I was in that time director of the French Institute of Iranian Studies, Anjuman Iran aussi Français, which has been closed by the Iranian authority 2 days ago. Since that time, being in Iran, I was studying much more urban studies, the growth of Tehran, and why this revolution occurred. It was a surprise. And so my question was at that time, what did I didn't see anything. I was studying Iranian society, the geography of Iran, and so I started studying the fact that in Iran, people are living in cities and no longer in villages. People are educated and no longer uneducated. And I tried to see the roots of the revolution, the social, geographical roots of the revolution. And since that time, I was in CNRS, National Center of Scientific Research in Paris, since '83. And there I set up a group of research, joining all the research groups working on history, literature, philosophy, religion, social sciences of Iran. So instead of being 5 different groups, we were a group of 25 people working on the whole Iranian history and civilization, from Dariush to Khomeini. And I'm very proud of that. But today I'm retired, of course, and I'm seeing Iran from far, since I am Mamnoul Vorut in Iran, of course.
Why Iran?
A mistake. I had a proposal to be teacher at university in Canada, and the program was not positively concluded. So I proposed me to be teacher of French in the French Institute of Cultural Center in Tehran. So I went to Tehran, and I didn't know a word of Persian. I didn't know where Tehran was. And it was the beginning, by accident, of my long history with Iran.
Do you think that studying Iran's history gives us any clues as to what's happening in the future?
I think that we are human beings. We have got a past, a father, a grandfather, grand-grandfathers, a history, but we are also living for a period of time of 20, 50, 60, 100 years. And in that time, we are looking forward. So what is important, of course, is to look at our roots. The roots are important. But when you are looking at a tree, you don't see the roots of the tree. You see the branches and the wood and the leaves of the tree and the flower of a flower. So we have, I think, to look at the past, of course, but the most important thing is to look in which way this past and the current situation give you the possibility to be positive and to be successful in your life. And so, in my opinion, I'm a geographer looking at the situation of the people living on this earth. The most important thing is to see in which way people are able to implement their hopes and to make a fact the dreams they have. And that's the main question. So history, of course, is important in identity, but in my opinion, it is, as a geographer, that's my job, to see the identity of a people, the dynamic of someone. We have to see their own capacity, today's capacity. And history can explain things, but it doesn't explain everything. And you can see especially that in Iran. My enemy in Iran is Dariush. My enemy is Dariush. a joke, of course. But in Iran, people say, oh, you know, we are a country with a difficult situation, tough situation. But 2,500 years ago, it was a magnificent country. So we should go back to that time. No, let's be serious. And so the dream of Jamshid, the dream of Persian literature, the reality, of course, of that, the dream of Dariush and Kurosh is important, of course, in the identity of a country. But if you only look at the past, you will starve and we die. So let us have our feet on the history, on Dariush and Kurosh and the history and literature, Persian literature, but we have got our head looking forward, and that's important.
Does this magnificent history of Iran, does it actually hinder us because it causes like history overload, where we have so much to pick from, we choose, you know, the grand periods, and we're kind of omitting the recent history, the last several hundred years, or even the last 1,000 years. It's not much to think about. It was difficult times that we had. Do you think this is a double-edged sword with so much history? It's kind of it confused us a little bit.
Two problems. One is the importance of the last century, contemporary history, and second one, the sociology of the Iranians. First one, I think Iran is an amazing laboratory in history. In the last century, Iran was the first country to have a constitutional revolution before Turkey. The first country to have a strong dictatorship, modernization to fight the communists with Reza Shah. The first country to nationalize oil with Mossadegh. The first country where CIA coup d'etat occurred. The first country where Mohammad Reza Shah made a social revolution to try to develop the country to challenge the communists. The first country to have an Islamic revolution. So it was a problem for the Iranians because it was very tough, difficult to cope with all this reality. But for the people of Iran, today's people of Iran, during the last 150 years, it was a unique experience of history. And so if we're looking at what's going on in Iran today or the day before, the years before, we can see what may happen in other countries in a few years. For instance, the Arab Springs in 2011. Oh, that's a new fact. The youth and the intellectuals are looking for liberty, democracy, and so on. Oh, it was just the motto of the Iranian Revolution of 77, 78, before it became Islamic. So Iran has made its Arab Spring, 30 years ago, earlier. And that's something very important. So we have, of course, to see all these dynamics, the capacity. What's important is not the fact that Reza Shah has done this and that. It's important, but the fact that in Iran, the people, the elites and the people, the whole Iranians were able, during the last 120 years, able to build up new political facts which were very important for their own country and also for international relations at the international scale. So we must have a look at Iran, because what's happening in Iran may occur in other countries in a few years or decades, I don't know. But history of Iran is very important. History of Iran matters. That's important. History of Iran matters. But the second question is the development of education in Iran. 50 years ago, the number of people able to read and write in Iran was less than 50%. Today it's more or less 100%. The history of Iran is well known by some elite. So for you and me, elite, Kurosh, Dariush, Shah Abbas, Taimur, the Qajar, even Reza Shah was important milestone in the history of the country, of the civilization of Iran. That's clear. But do you think that a poor peasant in the Alborz mountain in Lorestan has a good knowledge of that? No, he hasn't. And today, he hasn't this knowledge because he was illiterate. He didn't go to school. Today, all the Iranians are going to school more or less. And so they have got some knowledge, sometimes not good knowledge because of the Islamic Republic policy. They got some knowledge about the past of Iran. But what's new for them is the dynamic they are witnessing. They said, a young lady of 20 years old, she said, my mother had 6 children. Only 4 of us are alive, and she was illiterate. My grandmother had 12 children. She was completely Iranian. She didn't speak Persian. I am at school in a good engineer in Sharif University in Tehran. I will be engineer, not yet married, and I will have maybe 1 or 2 children. That's another civilization, another thing. So, young lady of 20 years old studying at Sharif University, do you think that Shah Abbas is important for you and the revolution of Reza Shah and what? Oh, of course. But my main problem is to have my PhD of engineer, to find a good job, to find a good family, and to live in a free country happily. So history has not the same meaning today in Iran because 85 million inhabitants have got a new past. The intellectuals in Iran, the elite, had a past, a historical past. These people are not the same, it is a matter of class, of social classes. These people have not the same history that you and I have. And that's much important. That's important. So what's the meaning of that? I don't know. But what important thing happened in February 79? You can say, Imam Khomeini arrived in Tehran. No, that's a historical fact. Mr. Khomeini arrived in Tehran. It was Islamic Revolution. Of course, it's politically important. What is the most important? It's that very day, for the first time in the long history of Iran, 50% of the inhabitants of Iran were living in cities, and 50% were able to read and write. The line of 50% was crossed in February 79. And this is sustainable history, a global change. In Iran, people now are not dreaming about the past. They are new people going to school, able to read and write, and living in cities. It means a new civilization. It is the same at the same time, a political situation occurred, a revolution, political revolution occurred. But the most important thing is that this social revolution was in the making because of the history of Iran, what Reza Shah has done, what Mohammad Reza Shah has done, but they died. But now these new people of Iran have got their history in their hands. And that's important. And today, if we are looking at what's happening in Iran, what will happen with the Islamic regime? I don't know. I don't care. That's the problem of Iranians. What I see, and they will collapse. Of course, a regime will die one day or the other. But the civilization of Iran, of people living in cities, having a strong modern scientific knowledge of the new world is important and never ending, especially for the female population. So that's sustainable history. So I try to look at the sustainable history of the society of Iran, looking forward, than at the Iranian society, the Iranian history of the elite, looking backward.
I've had the privilege to speak with many academics and scholars such as yourselves. And for me, the difference when talking with French, European, American scholars of Iran versus talking with Iranians, it's a difference. What I hear from you is a sober, unbiased towards this regime or that regime, kind of a continuous history. Whereas us Iranians, of course, you had the upheavals in 1 century. We had Qajars, the Pahlavis, Khomeini, and Mossadegh in between. And every one of these periods, whoever came wanted to wipe everything behind them, put a history that kind of pertains to them, and kind of change directions. And us as a society going through these 4 upheavals in 1 century, it's left us with when I talk to Iranians, it's left us with a situation where it's hard for the monarchists to understand Khomeini. It's hard for the leftists to understand the Shah. And we're with this disjointed society. And what I've seen is, that's what I want to ask you is, do you think Iranians base their views more on facts or myths?
Of course, in any society, it's the same. Looking at Putin, he's dreaming about the good old time of Peter I and the empire of Russia. In all countries in France, we are dreaming about that. All the civilizations have got the same problems. But in Iran, something amazing, something very special, and is that during the constitutional revolution, for the first time in Iran, in an Islamic traditional country, one of the remote countries in the Middle East, Egypt at that time was a very bright country. Lebanon was also, Algeria was bright. Iran was a remote, unknown country at the beginning of the 20th century between the Russian, the Ottoman, and the British. So in this whole, what happened? Some people in Tabriz and the others made a constitutional revolution with all the many problems. Oh, that's a new thing, a new object. So these people were open new doors for the people in Iran. It's important doors, of course. It was, of course, because of different reasons, it was chaos everywhere and the communists were coming. So the British built up Reza Shah. And Reza Shah made an amazing, wonderful job, modernizing the country, making a strong state. And Reza Shah and his son, Mohammad Reza Shah, did something very marvelous. Using the capacity of his father and the strong state, he abuses of the strong state and made a dictatorship. But he modernized Iran, he gave the right of vote to women, and so he made a good job on that time and opened new doors. Of course, the doors were open for a new minority of the population, but the doors were open. And the Islamic Republic was a political outcome of a social, political, deep-rooted revolution. The people have made revolution, not an elite. The elite went away. The people in revolution. And what were the people at that time? Most of them were Islamic, of traditional Islamic culture. I was in Iran on Ashura and Taswa 79. It was an amazing scenery. When I saw in the Reza Shah Avenue, it was near the University of Tehran. You see 10,000, 100,000 of women with black shadow shouting in the street, down with the Shah, Mal Shah. They were traditional Muslim ladies who were never allowed to go outside in the street, shouting like Latalut in the street. It's not possible. But they were the people of Iran, southern part of Tehran, telling, oh, I go with my shadow, with protection of my shadow, I go in the street, down with the Shah. So they have made the revolution. And so afterwards, of course, Khomeini has taken this population to his own policies. That's something else. But basically, the Islamic people of Iran has made a social revolution with, of course, problems. Of course, a lot of problems, new things that nobody was able to manage. Because of the war and things like that, of course, the government having the power, the mullahs and the Pazaran have taken the power because there was nobody else. That's something else, that's politics. But you see, the history of Iran, the history has been made by the people. And so, constitutional revolution, modernization, opening to the West and to modernization, popular revolution, amazing history, dynamics. What's important is not the political fact. What government, Mossadegh, Zed Mossadegh, Kashani, the Shah, Khomeini, Rafsanjani, Khamenei, of course it's important. That's political history. It's important, of course. But I am in France. That's not my problem. The Iranians can choose the government they want. I'm done by my business. I'm looking at a society where a lot of major intellectual, philosophical, economic, scientific, and social events occurred that make Iran a country of 75 inhabitants, which is one of the new centers of the Middle East, at least of the Middle East. I don't want to make Iranian too happy to say as the core of the world. It's amazing. It's amazing. Of course, the price to pay for the Iranians is very high. It's very high. I do know that. But when you see that from Paris, and you have the privilege to be there, I was in Iran during the last 40 years, it is a fantastic history, you can see. In the making. So I prefer to see the history in the making than the history already made.
Please discuss the geopolitical importance of Iran. I mean, we're in the most important real estate in the Middle East, you could argue in the world. And have we been able to maximize our potential with our geopolitical situation where we are? As far as being the hub of oil and gas for the world, as far as actually being the true caretakers of the Persian Gulf. I mean, we're in a vital area. Have we been able to use it efficiently?
Yeah. You see, Iran at the beginning of the century, even of the 20th century, was nowhere. Iran was a remote, poor country it was a no man's land between the Ottoman Empire, the Russian Empire, and the British Empire. And so they all decided not to fight to take Iran. Of course, the Russians had taken some pieces of Iran, the British the same, the Ottoman also, but they were Iran. There was nothing in Iran, nothing at all. Not necessary to kill one single British soldier to take Iran. So Iran was nowhere. It's important because after the discovery of oil, of course, Iran became suddenly the center of the world, especially for the safety of European countries. And Winston Churchill, has bought the Persian oil company, and it was a military, the Ministry of Defense of the Navy of UK that has taken the oil of Iran for military issues. So, because of oil, suddenly Iran became one of the center of the civilization, of the Western civilization, Western economy. And so, from nothing, Iran became immediately the center of the world. The shock is, of course, important. And the poor Iranian, during years and years, they are producing oil and not getting one single penny from this oil until Reza Shah came and Massadegh and so on and so forth. And so the fact that Iran was suddenly put on the top of the main problem of the world was a major problem for the policymakers in Iran. There was no policymakers strong enough to rule this new revolution. And the fact that they had to fight at the same time against the Ottomans, the US, which were growing up, the British, the French, the Germans, the Russians, the Chinese, the Arabs, which were becoming independent, with Iraq becoming independent, a lot of things around them, impossible to manage. Iran was a weak country with a weak elite. The first people to really train in the Western countries, modernization, was in the 30s. People sent to France, Germany, and UK by Reza Shah in the 30s. So they came back in the Second World War too late to do anything, and they were active in time of Mossadegh with the political situation they had. So they were not able to rule the country clearly. So the problem in Iran is that this international situation made the policymakers in Iran in sort of jail. They are in jail because they have to deal with the interests of the US, of the Russia, of the Chinese, the French, and the others because of oil. And the independence of Iran didn't exist. It's not a hazard if in the revolution the first word was Esterlol, as Adi Jomhuri said, Esterlol. The first point was Esterlol. I am Iranian, I know that I have some capacity, a strong history, a large culture, literature, and so on. I have the capacity to do something, but until now, I wasn't allowed, I couldn't do anything. So now I want to do something. And the new bourgeoisie made by the Shah in the 60s, when he developed the universities, the son of the Shah, they were 20 years old, 25 years old during the revolution of 77, 8, they said to the Shah, okay, Mr. Shah, you are a very nice person, but I am an engineer now, I am crazy. I want to have some political liberty, please, Your Majesty. And the Shah was not able to give that. So, and they decided to take their life in their own hand, to make something with the capacity they had. This capacity was not a reality before the 60s, 70s. Iran hadn't a national strong elite. And one important point today is that the Islamic regime has developed the universities in Iran, giving a high level of education to a lot of people in Iran. And this new population has not the same history as the people the family were been sent to France or UK by Reza Shah in the 30s. They are different. So today, since they are coming from the bottom, of the society, the traditional Islamic society, they discovered the world today. They have no heritage. They are self-made men, and they want to make something with that. Of course, they have not the tools to do that. They are controlled by some people on top of the system which are trying to control them, and the system understands now that they cannot control them because they are numerous, educated, and that's the main challenge they have to do, which is with an elite which is still a small elite in the hand of a few number of people, and a strong majority of the population having for the first time in Iran the capacity to choose their own future. And of course, in this situation, Iran is not a danger for oil now or gas, even for nuclear issue. but Iran is a danger for the soft power of Iran. I made a lecture at the Naval Academy in the US, a conference about Iran. The title was The Iranian Threat, about Hezbollah, the revolution in Iran. My first picture was an Iranian lady with a scarf, young lady. I tell them, this is the Iranian threat. It was 30 years ago. The Iranian threat is there. The revolution by the ladies of Iran, which were married at the age of 14, 15, illiterate, and so now this lady is not the same. So revolution will come from them. And the number of engineers, Iran produces more engineers than France today, and at good level. So, and as far as I know, the filmmakers in Iran are one of the best in the world. A new discovery, the Iranian films are well known in the world, in the photography, in all fields, in the culture of Iran. Iran is able to launch satellites, so the technology in Iran is one of the best in the world. So the capacity is there. So for the first time, this country has got in their hand, these people have got in their hand a soft power unique in the Middle East, from Morocco to India or to China. China is something else. This unique country where the people have got a strong history, a strong identity, a strong culture, a good past, an history of struggling, of making things new and alive, and they can do something. And they're very upset. I am able to do something and I cannot do that. And from Saudi Arabia, from Egypt, from Kazakhstan, from all the countries around Iran, they're not afraid by the weapons of Iran, even though the nuclear weapon of Iran is not for Tel Aviv nor for Riyadh. But they are scared by the number of Iranian men or women, engineers going to Saudi Arabia as engineer, or to go to Egypt, to go to Palestine, to go to other countries. It will be a much more influential situation than a military occupation. And so I think now the Iranian threat, Iranian country, it's a positive influence, is the social one, the cultural one, the technological one. And so the geopolitical identity of Iran is no longer the identity of oil, that other countries have much more oil, Russia, the US, or other countries. Oil is no longer important. So there's a chance for Iran for having money from oil. But oil is a question of the 20th century. That's over. The capacity of Iran, the Iranian capacity at international level, is the software of Iran, the capacity of the Iranian society. And of course, because of US sanctions for different reasons, because the US are implementing a policy of 20th century, but unable to control Iran. But so, sanctions are important to prevent the people of Iran to be free. I think today, of course, the Islamic Republic is a problem for the people of Iran, but the most important thing is the sanction imposed by the US, by Trump, which has made the hope of Barjam and the JCPOA in 2015. It was a hope, the beginning of a new history, possible new history, and political change. This future has been shut down and cut by Trump's decision to not to implement the JCPOA. And so there will be no outcome. I am an engineer, I am a lady, what can I do? I am 25 years old, what can I do in this country? With a mullah on one side and Trump on the other side. Nothing. So down with the dictator. But what does it mean? It means nothing. Down with what? But I'm very optimistic because a soft power cannot be destroyed by politics or by weapons. And so this soft power I saw when I was studying at the revolution, that when Khomeini came, 50% of the population was living in cities and educated, and the line was gone up to 80% today. So this cultural, social revolution had no end. Government have got some end, but something else.
Does Islamic clerical rule leave any space for freedom of opinion? I mean, we see reforms, we see this Islamic government coming in and getting rid of a dictator, coming in with certain promises. But within Islam, how much freedom of opinion, how much of what you're talking about, these Iranians, even though they're Muslims, they still have wants, the engineers, they want economic advances, they want to be integrated into the world, they want to have freedom of press. You see it in Iran. How compatible is that with the Islamic government?
Iran has a chance of having the first experience of Islamic Republic, Islam and Republic. Of course, Pakistan and Mauritania were also Islamic Republic, that's something else. In Iran, it was a chance of the people of Iran, they have the experience of 43 years of an Islamic Republic. So with Islam ruling policy and mixture of Iranian politics. The outcome of that is very clear, that separation between Islam and religion, between religion and governments is important. And of course, religion as a philosophy is important in any country, in any civilization, to have got an idea, a global idea about what could be done or not done. In any country, we are facing the same problem, it's a question. But ruling a country is something else. Having an intellectual, a philosophical influence is the need and the duty of a religion, but ruling a country is something else. And so after 40 years, everybody has understood in Iran, even among the clerics, that the cohabitation, the marriage between Islam and politics has to be studied a little bit. And separation, the relation has to be maybe wider. And so this experience, Iranians have got it. But unfortunately, when you go to Mauritania, you go to Mali, you go to Algeria, you go to so many countries, even to Egypt, a lot of people are back to the history of Iran in the 70s, 40 years ago. They think Islam is the solution. Why? Because of dictatorship, traditional dictatorship. There is no outcome. Where can I go? The only philosophical, political, social power is Islamic. So Islam is the solution. As they try to make an Islamic revolution in many countries, Daesh is one of the examples, sad examples, and dramatic examples. Fortunately, in Iran, the Islamic revolution was a very difficult situation, but there was no civil war, except Kurdistan. There was no 100,000 people killed during that time. That's important. Why? Because in Iran, people are educated, people are sophisticated, are different, and they knew that they would like to make this experience. Islamic Republic, why not? Let's see. They had done the experience. And so an experience, but with some reformists, people saying, okay, we can go that way and also that way. There was no 100% dictatorship. And until now, the freedom of speech in Iran exists more or less. In Iran, you have got journalists in jail. But they are journalists. They go out of jail, they set up a new journal. And after 2 weeks, they go back to jail and back to the journal, make a new one. So there is dynamics of speaking in Iran, very strong dynamic of speaking. And that was done by the revolution. I was speaking about the traditional women with shadow, black shadow in the demonstration in the beginning of the revolution. This female population who have not the right to speak in their own family because the husband was the head of the family. They are now able to speak with their husband and with the others. And they go outside and say what they want to do. During the war, they had to be outside to buy things and so on. So they become visible in the social, in the public sphere. They are able to speak now. They're there to speak. And so that's very important. Because of the revolution, because of the war, because of everything. Now, people are proud in Iran because they made this revolution. I am strong. I put Mr. Khomeini in the power. I am able to topple down. I did the job. I put you on top of the table. Now we can take you back, down. That's possible. The people have taken the power. They have the capacity to speak in Iran. People are speaking in Iran, shouting in Iran. And that's the outcome. It started with the revolution. Maybe it started with the time of Reza Shah or in the constitutional revolution. But Iranian people have got the capacity and the strength to speak and to demonstrate in any case, even if the cost is heavy. And that's a new fact. So liberty of expression, liberty of the freedom of expression exists in Iran. Of course, some friend of mine told me there is liberty of expression in Iran, but there is no liberty after expression, you know. But as a matter of fact, in Iran, you can say a lot of things. Because even at top level of the Islamic system, some people said, if we want to save Islam, we have to put Islam at its right place. Somebody told me that Khamenei, when he was Minister of Irshad, dismissed, and he told, Islam is in danger in this country. Islam is in danger in this country. They see if the Islamic Republic is topple down, it means that Islam may topple down. And Islam is something else. So you cannot, you can contest and challenge a state. Challenge Islam is something else. That's not the same category. So we have to be cautious. Taking down the regime, the political regime, and saving Islam. And you can see that in Iran, even among the clerics, even the Shiite tradition, the Shiite Ayatollah, a lot of them are thinking that Islam should be something else. And the new thinkers among the clerics in Iran, because the experience of revolution, they made the experience, so they said, no, Islam cannot be linked with politics. Islam, we have made this experience, has to be different. Let us see this new relation between Islam, society, and politics. That's new. It comes from Iran. So the experience of Iran for Islam is very important. Islam, there is a new era for Islam thanks to the Islamic Republic of Iran. A new Islam is in the making because of the experience of Iran. Of course, that's wishful thinking because a lot of things has to be done, but that's my never-ending hope about Iran.
It's a very interesting point you brought up because I went to Iran after. It's just creaking, just frozen. I went to Iran after the Green Movement, and I was actually in the U.S. I was managing a radio station, and we were in touch. Like when the Khatami went to the mosque and the Basijis tried to attack him, one of his people called me, and we were on the radio talking, and he said that they're attacking us. And one of the attackers called me on the radio, and he said they're the Basijis. And there was an argument between these two people what the definition of Basij was. So then I went back to Iran. I tried to talk to a lot of these people. What was the Green Movement about? It seemed like it was mullahs against the Islamic Republic. What is that? And they said the same exact thing you said. They said, I asked them, is this a nationalist movement? Are you trying to protect Iran? They more so said, we're trying to protect Islam from the politics of it. Could you please elaborate? I know you touched upon it, but elaborate on it because this is such an important issue that people don't understand, that they're actually trying to save Islam from being politicized. I mean,
a friend of mine, he was in charge of the cultural revolution in Iran. He's a scholar. And we were speaking about Tehran. And a friend of mine told, I don't like Tehran. It's a dirty city. I don't like the city of Tehran. I said, no, you're making a mistake. I do like Tehran. Because you can find in Tehran, and it's the only city in Iran, you can find in Tehran a lot of people able to challenge the mullahs. If this bourgeoisie of Iran made the time of the Shah, and more or less open to democracy and even to Islam maybe, were not in Tehran, the mullahs in Tehran would have done exactly what the Taliban have done in Afghanistan. They have got the same philosophy. They are very tough about hijab, about the standards of living. They are very traditional, and what they study in Rome or Mashhad or the other madrasa is traditional. They have no connection with the current world. They don't understand the world. But these people, Mr. Khomeini, Rafsanjani, Ratami, or Rouhani, the others, they were, when they were young, they were at the madrasa, and now they spend all their life in the politics. So they know exactly what is the politics, what is Islam. And if these leaders have their own history, but most of them are thinking, what is Islam? I am a true believer. So to protect Islam from its real identity, to find what is the real identity of Iran, what is the message of Iran, of Islam, the positive message of Islam, we have to prevent Islam to be hijacked by other forces. And the political hijacking of Islam was a problem in Iran. And so these people told me, this friend told me, Islam is in danger of this country. And fortunately, some people inside the Islamic Revolution are able to say, oh, cool down about the hijab, about this sort. But of course, the balance of power was not in their favor. They were not allowed to go on, and after 1, 2, 3, 10 years in Iran, they had to go outside because it was no longer possible to reform and to change the system. It was too heavy. But that's a political history. So I think that in the framework of Islamic studies, we have what has been done in Iran the experience in Iran is a major step in modernization of Islam. What has been said in the 16th century in Europe. In 16th century, Europe in the 16th century was in the hand of the Catholic Church very more heavily than the mullahs in Iran today, or Daesh. It was the same thing. But because of the social change, because of the career of America, because of the new sciences in that time, the society was changing, and the reform inside the Catholic the Church occurred with Luther and Calvin and so on, and new things happened, and separation step by step between politics and religion, which occurred in the French Revolution later. So this experience of mixing of marriage between Islam and politics, I think will be very positive for Islam. After, of course, ups and downs and problems. But on the intellectual point of view and the philosophical point of view, I think the dramatic experience of Iran will be important for the politics, but also for Islam. Because they will abandon completely the dream of caliphate, of a country with a caliph having the political and the religious power. This period of Islam is over. And Islamic Republic of Iran has broken this dream of the Islamic empire with a policymaker head at the same time of the religion. That's over. Thank you, Iranian people.
You mentioned before in your work and you know, the Islam, the Shia archipelago, the Shia crescent. What does that mean? How does that affect the modern geopolitical structure of the Middle East? And what does it mean for the neighbors, you know, to having this influence with Iran, this Shia the revival, and how does this Shia crescent and this Iran as being the center of this and kind of united, how has that affected the dynamics?
I think I was opposed of the image of the Shia crescent. Because most of our policymakers in France, in UK, or in US have been have studied 30 years ago, as they have got the models of 100 years ago, and thinking that Iranians are Shia, and all the Iranians are 100% Shias. Their identity is 100% Shiism, and the same thing in Iraq, in Lebanon, in here and there. So Shiism is an important part of the identity of anybody or religion. But it's not 100% of the problem. So having a look as Iran as only a Shia state, and as a fact, Mr. Khomeini was a Shia leader. But Mr. Khomeini was much more than a Shia leader. He's of course a Shia, he's a Muslim, he's a policymaker, a philosopher, he's a man. And so looking only at Shiism as the only and main point of identity to build up defense policy, a geopolicy of the Middle East, or Sunni at the same time, or on the contrary, is a wrong idea. What's important in Iran is not that the Hezbollah are Shia and in Iraq, most of the people are Shia, or Iran are also Shia. That's a matter of fact for centuries. That's something new. But the Hezbollah is something new, totally new. So if you explain the Hezbollah only by the fact that they are Shia like the Iranians, it's wrong. If a student was writing that for the dissertation, they said zero. You have nothing. You understand nothing about that. If the Hezbollah is important, it's because of the revolution of Iran. Esternal Azadi, Jomhuri. The social dynamics, the political dynamics of Iran were at work, not the Shia one. Of course, they use the Shia culture as an important, a useful tool to go to Lebanon or to go somewhere else. I never said that religious identity or ethnic identity doesn't exist. It exists. Maybe for 10% or 15% of the identity, the political identity of Iran. When the Pasdar go to Mr. Rhodes Force, Mr. Soleimani go to Lebanon or to Syria, he goes there as a soldier, as a general, having a military capacity, as an Iranian, a nationalist Iranian, also a good Muslim, and also a Shia. But he's basically a strong military personnel. So let's look at security issues with security tools, not only with ideological, historical, ethnological facts. That's the way of making of seeing the world in the 60s, 70s, 19th century in time of colonization with the tribes. Iranian, the tribes are important. Ethnic identity in Iran is important, but ethnic identity is not the basement of Iranian civilization. The Kurds are Iranian, the Baluch also are Iranian. In France also, because in Brittany, in Alsace, in Auvergne, in Basque Country, in southern France, we have got different languages, different history, way of life, way of cooking, way of dressing, but it is France. And so overestimating the Shia dynamic, the Shia identity as the basement of a policy of a state is a major failure. And the fact, as a matter of fact, today nobody is speaking about the Shia crescent. That's over. But we are all having a strong myth, you know.
Talk about the revolutionary spirit of the Iranians. I want to kind of delve into what it's attributed to. We've had so many changes of government, revolutionary movements, and is it an internal thing, or is it due to us being influenced by foreigners and being stuck between the Russians and the Ottomans and the British and the Americans? We seem to have this revolutionary spirit, especially in the last 100 years, and it's there, and you see it, it's present. Is it an internal thing within ourselves, or is it as a result of external forces, or both?
Both.
How much would you attribute to each?
What's amazing in Iran, I said that Iran was no man's land in the beginning of 20th century. So Iranians have the capacity to do everything. You can learn English, go to Baghdad, to Ottoman Empire, and make trade with Russia and go to Bombay. We don't care. Well, you are Iranian. Iranian didn't exist. Funny people having nice carpets, nice literature and poetry, that's all. So nobody cares. But Iranians have the capacity to have to get interesting from India, from Istanbul, from Baku, from Russia, from everywhere, from Makkah. And so using all the influences, all the tools, all the need, all the food from everywhere, without any problem. And the Constitutional Revolution occurred. Of course, there are some political problems and some riots and some wars, but basically it was Iran, fortunately, never faced a civil war. Never faced. In time of Reza Shah takes the power like that. In time of Mossadegh, even at that time, there was a civil war in Iran. Some problem, people killed, but not civil war. So why Islamic Revolution occurred? Because Iran was in the Muslim world, but outside of the Muslim world. When the Western countries allowed Khomeini to take the power and allowed the Shah to go out, more or less, they said, okay, Khomeini will take the power, he's anti-communist as any cleric, so it was a good thing for us to have somebody against the Soviet Union, which was the main problem at that time. So they agreed that Khomeini. Secondly, Iran they are in an island, an isolated island. So if there is political problems in Iran, it will never go in the Muslim world to Algeria. Huge mistake. Not because Islam was important, but because the revolution of Iran, of the Iranians, for Estirlal Azadi Jomhuri, liberty, independence, and republic. Islamic also, but Estirlal Azadi Jomhuri. These ideas were shared by all the people in the Middle East, in the Muslim world. But what is important is not the Algerian and Muslims, but they are young people wanting to live in 20th century. That's important. And so the Iranians have got the capacity of being an island. The Iranians are the UK of Middle East. It's England. England was strong. Why? Because it is an island. They can get everything from outside, make their own cooking, and use it for themselves. And of course, so their strengths and their software everywhere. Iran is the same. Iran is England of the Middle East. So sharing everything, taking what is good from outside and making its own cooking for its own interest. But of course, sometimes the cooking, the food is not good and there are problems, but Iran has got this capacity of being at the same time inside and outside and to be independent. Independence of Iran is the most important point. Iranians are not Turks, are not Arab, are not Indian, are not European, are not Africans, they are Iranians. It's not a matter of pride or nothing, that's a matter of fact. And so in history, they were never an empire. Iran, except the time of Kourosh and Dariush, but Iran, the borders of Iran are more or less the same today that it was 2 centuries ago, more or less, with some buffer zone. So the core of Iran is today's Iran. And the people living in this state, in Sarzamine, Iran, they had the chance or the bad luck to be in this situation, having invasion from everywhere, but taking also what is positive from the invaders. And strong enough, since they are weak, Iranians are weak, and so nobody cares with Iran. And what is new is the question of nuclear weapon that makes Iran a strong country, but in my opinion, it is not the main problem. The main problem in Iran, the main question for international relations in Iran is the soft power Iranian, not the nuclear issue or the imperialist dreams of Iran, which doesn't exist. Because Iran is basically national Iran. And Iranians want to be free and happy and wealthy and live peacefully in their home, at home. That's all. That's important. And not to take Iraq, Afghanistan, or Kazakhstan. That's crazy ideas. That's crazy ideas. We have to learn a lot about the history of Iran, about the road of independence in the making of a policy, of the dynamics of a society.
I agree with you on that point, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate on this because I want you to explain it. True, I don't believe Iranians have an expansionist motives in there. Yet you find Iranians in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Algeria. You find them. But what is their intention there? Is it expansion, or is it to try to kind of create a better climate with their neighbors?
I wrote a paper telling that Iran is not an imperialist country, but having an archipelago of allies. The best allies of Iran were the Christians in Iraq or in Armenia against the Azeri, which are Turks, but Shia also. So when Iran, the state of Iran, today and previously, Iran today has a lot of problems with its neighbors for different reasons, the Iran-Iraq war especially. So they try to find some allies behind their neighbor. Saudi Arabia is making a lot of problems with Iran. So in Yemen is important not for Iran, but Saudi Arabia is very important for cultural reasons. So they found some tribes in Yemen, they didn't know who they were, no problem, the Houthis. So they are helping these people to make a revolution, to attack Saudi Arabia. Telling Saudi Arabia, if you are making noise with us, we can make noise also on your back. So be cautious. The same thing everywhere. So Iranians are using the Christians, the Shia, of course, the Tajik, the Persian-speaking minorities, or any population living in an island like Iran. They understand islands. So if there are people living in an island inside of Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Afghanistan, they try to support. You are in an island under the pressure of outsiders, I will help you. And so you will help me also. So I think we have to see that as a policy to protect the independence of the country. And so, of course, some people would like to be in Lebanon to take money to control the territory of Lebanon. Maybe, but I think it's not the core of the explanation. If we want to understand exactly what happened, we have to work a little bit more about Soleimani, for instance, the general. I don't know him, but I think it will be very interesting to see exactly what he was thinking about, because he was a good Muslim, a general, a nationalist, and the number of people demonstrating in the streets when he died was amazing for nationalist reasons. And a friend of mine told me he was a bad cop, but he was a good bad cop. And he was opposed to the Islamic Republic and the general, but he said, in one way or the others, he's a general of the state of Iran. And the crazy Americans have killed him. It's not fair. So for this day, I will mourn and I'm very sad that Mr. Soleimani has been killed. Afterwards, That's something. But I think that Iran is very pragmatist. Very pragmatist. One of the experience of Islamic Republic, it makes the mullahs more pragmatic. Mr. Raisi is not a mullah. He is not trained in Rome. He just got his diploma of not a master or PhD from Rome. He was involved in the politics administration from the beginning. When he was at Evin or Kara Reza Shah jail to kill people. He was in the system. So he's pragmatic. Islam is not his problem. He's Muslim. It's not a problem. He's a man in charge of ruling a country with pragmatic issues and taking the power for the people having the power today. Point. Ideology is not the core of the question. No longer the core. That's the outcome of the experience of Islamic Republic.
I want to talk about the nuclear program. It's true, the Iranian people should decide for themselves. But to what extent have the Iranian people at large did the cost-benefit analysis with the sanctions and the effect it's having on them? If they did, what do you think they would think? If you had a vote, everybody comes and you have a referendum, should we pursue it? What do you think the general feeling would, especially with, the elite are benefiting from it, but the country with sanctions and what have you is suffering from it. I see it myself. What do you think the overall opinion be? I don't know. I'm just.
I think the nuclear issue is a bad heritage from the past. The Shah started this program. He decided on that time that he will have two ways in the 70s, at the end of the 70s, a military direction and a peaceful direction, civil direction. The Islamic Republic has just went on this policy, no change, with the stop of some years because of Khomeini and because Iran-Iraq war. So the Shah's policies about nuclear issue, which was inherited by the Islamic Republic, went on. And the military, of course, uses that because Iran-Iraq war, which was imposed to Iran. And so the policy of the Shah about military dimension of the nuclear issue and the Iran-Iraq war make that the people in charge of Iranian security said, we must have a nuclear weapon, one way or the other. That's mandatory for any state. It's nothing to do with Islam. It's about the security of the state of Iran. It's the same policy of the Shah. So they build up in different ways, as we know, this policy. And of course, this policy is unacceptable for the international community for different reasons we cannot develop here. It's obvious that for Russia, for China, for France, for other countries, it's not possible to have many countries in the region or in a place having a nuclear capacity. We have some problems with Israel, with India and Pakistan and this sort of thing. And so having Iran would mean that in a short period of time, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Algeria and Kazakhstan will do the same. So for the world security, it's important. But the heritage is there. And so in Iran, the elite, the people in charge of security of the state of Iran said, we have got the capacity. What are the tools we have in our hand? Oil? No longer. Gas? No possible. It's no longer a tool for security. Our army is weak. We have no capacity to protect our territory because we can draw the lessons of Iran-Iraq war. And so if there is a new attack from Iraq or from Kazakhstan or from anywhere, from Saudi Arabia, we have not the tools to answer this, to challenge this security problem. So the security of Iran is based on the nuclear program. And we can understand that. And I think that in Los Angeles, people are much more supporting this nuclear program than people in Iran, because they think that Iran as a strong state deserves to have a nuclear weapon when you are living inside Los Angeles, but when you are living in Iran, of course, you are paying the price of that. And the price is very heavy. Sanctions on all fields. And so that's a major issue. That's the reason why, after a while, Mr. Khomeini accepted JCPOA. They explained that he was against the JCPOA. He was opposed to that. He said, we need a nuclear weapon to protect our country, our revolution, and so on and so forth. But he was forced to sign the JCPOA. He was opposed, but he signed it. Okay. Zarif and Rodi signed the JCPOA. But he was opposed to that. And now, when Trump supported Khamenei, Khamenei was very happy. Trump and Khamenei have got the same policy. He want to be a country with a lot of problems. And so Trump supported Khamenei, and what happened? The nuclear issue was resumed. The most radical factions have taken the power in Tehran, and the people of Iran are paying the price of sanctions. And so the price to pay for nuclear issue is so heavy. And that's the reason why the people today in Iran don't support the current revolution of the youth today massively. They support at home, but don't go in the street because of the sanctions. The economic problems are so heavy. They cannot think about liberty, about hijab or things like that when they have so huge economic problem at home. And so because of that, Trump is the best support of the Islamic system in Iran. US policy, which is still the same at the time of the Shah, or the European policy is more or less the same, because the sanctions and the nuclear issue is imposing sanctions on Iran, making the people of Iran unable to support their own revolution. That's a problem. And that is why I think, and many people were opposed to me because of that. I said at the beginning of this event that to support the revolt and the riots and the upheaval in Iran of the youth, we have to see as soon as possible the new JCPOA to make first the nuclear program safe, because it's a danger, and if nothing is done, Israel may do something. You think if in a few days or months Iran has got 100 kilos of uranium and 90% enrichment, Israel we do nothing, Israel will do something, or the US. And so if there is an attack from outside, the revolt of the population in Iran will be, of course, put aside. And for the people, if we are lifting the sanction, of course, there is Iran will not be again the El Dorado it was in 15, but resuming step-by-step relation with Iran will become a normal country, and the middle class, coming from the bottom of society, good Muslims, will be able to tell, I'm a good Muslim, I'm not opposed to the mullahs as mullahs, but I want to live in a free country. So I will support a political movement. But for the time being, I cannot do that. For lifting the sanction, it means signing a new JCPOA in one way or the other. There is no other step. There is no other step to make the people of Iran free again. We are now influencing Iran. We are making sanctions on Iran, like military sanctions. In Iraq, the poor people of Iraq had a military invasion. In Afghanistan, the same. We see the outcome in Iraq or in Afghanistan. So military action is over now. No future for that. But the political action, the sanctions on Iran are worse than the military action. It's worse. Iran was fighting against Iraq. Iran was able to resist to Iraq invasion. But sanctions, attacks, all the people in a remote village of Iran, people are under the sanctions. And so the people are supporting, and the regime is safe. In any despotic system, the elite taking the power is, of course, using the capacity they have to smuggle, for corruption and things like that. They are well off. If the sanctions are lifted, of course, they will take a part of the money, as usual. But people will also have a part, and will be able to not to pay the price of this nuclear adventure. It was a huge mistake of nationalism. It's not Islam, it is nationalism. I can tell you a joke, a story of what happened in Canada. There was a meeting about Iranian history, and an engineer was working at the time of the Shah for the military program, for the nuclear program, said at the beginning, I am opposed to Ahmadinejad. Oh, everybody clapping. Yeah, opposed to Ahmadinejad. I'm opposed to Ahmadinejad. He's negotiating about nuclear issue. Iran has the right of having anything in nuclear issue. Ahmadinejad is weak. I don't agree with the weak president, which is ready to discuss with the US about nuclear issue. No discussion. We have the right to have nuclear. that's a matter of fact also. Nuclear issues are nationalist issue in Iran, not an Islamic one. But for the time being, the people in charge of the state of Iran are both nationalist and Islamic, and so they're still using that. But in my opinion, I'm in France now, I think Macron was doing a good job trying to have this JCPOA signed again against Trump policy to make people of Iran free again and able to think about liberty before economy. And now for the time economy is too heavy and make the liberty under the seat.
Regarding the JCPOA, I'm going to play both parts. A lot of people thought what Trump did was he destroyed the hope of the middle class. And this was an opportunity to bring this revival back, to inject some life into the system again. On the opposing view, I actually went to Iran right before that. And I told my Iranian friends, I'm against this. And they were asking me why. And I told them, because it's not an enduring agreement. And I knew what the Republican attitude was in America, and I knew this wouldn't last. I knew whether Hillary or the next, if Hillary came, we have 4 years. So it would have changed things. But I knew it wasn't going to last long because I saw the opposition. Now, again, the effect of the lifting of sanctions, we did lift them for a while. There was a little period. But the money didn't trickle down to the average Iranians. It went into Syria, it went into these adventures. And I agree that we do need a mechanism where you lift the sanctions. You need to make sure you empower the Iranians economically. And I see Macron and Germany, they're putting pressure on outlawing the Revolutionary Guards. This is the pressure that they put to revive the JCPOA. And I know it died, and they brought it back to life, and it's on life support right now. It's still not dead. It's not flatlining. What can we do this time, if we do implement it, to make sure that is, first of all, that it lasts, that it's not a whim of one president, and second of all, that we do actually achieve those intentions of empowering the Iranian middle class.
Who is sure about the future? Nobody can be sure about anything. We just try to do something that may have this outcome or that outcome. So signing the JCPOA, it's clear for everybody that the Republicans in the US or others will try to do their best to cut it. That's clear. But it was a step. We are going step by step. So JCPOA was the first time when the Islamic Republic of Iran was recognized, the state of Iran, after 40 years of being outside of the world, when entering the world again, with a lot of problems, with the mullahs, with the corruption, with the elites, with the terrorism attack, a lot of problems about Iran. But for the first time, Iran was in the room, together. We're able to fight in Iran, to discuss with Iran, to do something on all fields, cultural, economic, military, everything was on the table for the first thing. And of course, I can tell you that French companies going to Iran, I had the opportunity to speak with some of them about what is Iran and so on. They told me we shall go to Iran and invest $1 million as soon as possible. 3 months later, they go back from Iran. Oh, yes, we are thinking about 1 million. It could be 100,000 maybe. 100,000 would be enough for the first time. And then, we spend only 10,000, it will be enough for the first time. Because we are not sure, because the Islamic Iran has not signed, is not ready for large development immediately. But they told me the future is there. So I put 10,000, and I hope that next week will be 100,000, and we reach 1 million, not within 1 year, but between 5 years. The program was in the making. A revolution doesn't occur in 2 days. I am not a Trotskyist about a great evening, where the revolution occurred, everything is bright immediately. No, it is step by step. So a new JCPOA will be will be tougher than the previous one, of course, because the conditions are worse, that's clear. But we want one day or the other open the door. Of course, if we open the door, we shall have a lot of dirty things falling on your nose. That's clear. But what to do? Let us wait for years and years with Iranian people killed every morning, making demonstration for liberty and this and that, and with no future, you have to open the door, a small door eventually, but we have to open the door. And telling new sanction, it means new sanction on the people and more strength for the elite and the power. That's clear. That's clear. Putin now is a country under sanction. The Russian people are living in a bad situation, and Putin is quite strong. Thank you for him. So in Iran, a new JCPOA or any relation will have, of course, at the first step, negative effects. Some people will take the money to go as usual, no more than usual. So that's not a problem. This is a part of the fire. But we have to see some other points. When you go play chess, to be mat, you must lose a tower or some other points. You have to lose some pieces before mat. So I want the dictator to be down. I want them to go. Okay, I do agree. And they will go. Take their no. Step by step, they will go. The Shah system did not collapse in 2 days. So I think we are not sure about nothing in life. But the experience I have about Iran, especially about the capacity of the society of Iran, the dynamics inside the country, that this is the failure of the 2016, 15, when the beginning of JCPOA. They have made a lot of mistake on the side of Iran. Some people have understood today in Iran that they should not do again the same mistake and open a little bit more the country. And the dynamics of opening are so strong, stronger now, because of the 500 people killed in Iran. So they want much more an opening, new life, liberty than 6 years ago. That's a matter of fact also. And 500 people have paid the price for that until now. And 4 people hanged. But let's try. If you don't try, you will not go anywhere. Of course, it is raining, it is storming, it is cold, it is dirty. Everything, I do agree with all the problems. But if we want to go, you have to go. And take the tools to go.
Explain this to me. Why are we more upset at Napoleon?
People are thinking about liberty and they hope to have a dictator coming back, a strong man coming back. Napoleon was a dictator, but he did wonderful things to build up a new modern state in Iran. Reza Shah was a dictator, but he did wonderful things to build up the new state of Iran. That's clear. So the French have got a nice philosophy about liberty, about poetry, a lot of things. But on the other side, Iran supported Iraq in the Iran-Iraq war at the same time. So states are states, you know, and.
But we lost a lot of land because of Napoleon sending us to war with Russia, making a deal with the Russians. But it's invisible in our history, it's in our social recollection of history.
Yeah, the myths in history are very important. History is not important. The facts are not important. The myths are important in history. So Napoleon is a good man or bad guy, doesn't matter. The image of Napoleon is important. That's the point. That's all. And the image of the British, of the French. One point for the French and the British Empire was quite strong towards Iran during 19th, 20th century, but not France. So you had the experience of British imperialism. You had not the experience of French imperialism. Go to Algeria or to Mali or to Senegal, the people have got not the same history about France.
Just hold for a moment, I'm sorry.
Yeah. When you go to the Iranians got the experience of the British imperialism, but people in Algeria, Morocco, or Mali have got the experience of French imperialism. So maybe they have got the same idea about France that you have about the British. That's a matter of fact. But I told you, let us forget history. Let's forget history. Marx said, I don't know the word in English, du passé faisant table rase. Let us take the history out of the table and start from something new. I am strong not because my parents were great Bazari and well off and of the king's family, but I am strong. I am myself because I am engineer and I have my own capacity, and I want in my future to be recognized for my own capacity and not for the capacity of my grandfather. That's the basement of democracy. And so the French Revolution was based on that, not on history. As I said, every people in France is equal to the other. Not because your father was a prince, your father was a bishop. No, all the French people are equal. All the people are equal. That's important. And you are in the country, you are making your job because your capacity, of your own capacity. So history is important on the private scale, at the global scale, but I think we should have a look much more deep about the capacity of the people. As I told you in the beginning of this discussion, I'm amazed. It's amazing. The dynamics inside Iran are amazing. The capacity of the people of Iran, the ladies, the female population, women, the youth, everybody. The capacity of speaking, of being proud. I have the capacity to do something. That's important. And to use it, of course, in a positive way, not to fight against the neighbor. No. The capacity of being proud. This proudness is quite important. To be, I am able to do something. That's important. The Iranians are able to do a lot of things. That's the reason why I'm very optimistic about the future of Iran, with ups and downs, as usual.
There is no talk of the history of the Russians. Whereas if it wasn't because of Britain, Russia would have taken over Iran. They would have reached the Persian Gulf. Explain that to me, please. And again, it's this ultimate blame of the British and this, and why is it we're missing this big picture?
People are always thinking about the wrong past, a wrong image in the past. The British are the British Empire. There is no longer British Empire. The US are the coup d'etat of Mossadegh. It was 60 years ago. They have got new ideas today. And Russians are very nice people. They bring tea to Iran, so they're nice people. And they don't think about Turkmenchai. They don't think about the invasion, the bombing of the shrine of Imam Reza in Mashhad, and the fact that in the Second World War they were invading the north of Iran. And
how can we miss that?
But that's life, you know.
But it's the danger which is inside our house, and we're treating it as if the Russians are our saviors. We miss that.
You have ups and downs. Sometimes a state is supporting the British in Iran, sometimes supporting the French, by mistake, or the Ottomans, sometimes the Arabs, or the Turks, the Russians. But one thing important in Iran is the pragmatic policy of the Iranian state. If they need to support, to be friends with the Russians, they will friend with the Russians, with the Chinese, with the US. They are very pragmatic, and not at all ideological. Even the Islamic Republic, they know what they can do in Lebanon and the others. They know what they can do, what they cannot do. With Russia, that's the same thing. People are thinking that today Russia will invade, will take the hand of Iran. This is not the case. The Russians would like to do so. I think that it's impossible. Iran are too much nationalist. I don't think any country is able to take real Iran. What happened with the US? In a few days, the US army had to go out of Iran. 60,000 soldiers went out of Iran in the time of 4 weeks, 3 weeks. The US in Afghanistan, the same. In the French, at the same time, with Taliban. So in Iran, that's something else than Taliban. So the British, they were the kings of Iran. They were having Iran, the oil in their hands, and nationalization, that's over in a few days. So don't think about the British powerful on the time of the beginning of Reza Shah. Oh, that's 100 years ago. That's something else today. Let's think about the real balance of power today. And today the balance of power is where today? In the Arab countries of the Gulf, with Saudi Arabia, with Bahrain, Dubai, Qatar. These countries have taken the advantage of the collapse of Iran in the last 50 years. What was Dubai 50 years ago? Nothing. Nothing. Now it's the capital city of the Middle East and the economic capital city of Iran. The capital city of Iran is not Tehran, it's Dubai for business. So, but Saudi Arabia and Qatar, all these countries are quite important. Qatar having the World Cup of soccer was in Qatar, it was well done. Don't bad Qatar, they did a good job. A small country which doesn't exist was able to do important things at the international level in peaceful. Bravo, bravo. No, good job. Saudi Arabia is now facing problems that the Shah had in the 60s, and MBS tried to make revolutions the Shah have done in the 60s. Well, good luck. I hope that in Saudi Arabia, step by step, things new will happen, and people of Saudi Arabia will become peaceful, happy people in the future. Iran may help for that. The Persian Gulf can be a sea of peace between two countries, between two civilizations. And Iran has a software that Saudi Arabia hasn't. Today, the balance of power, military power between Iran and Saudi Arabia is 100 times stronger than Iran. But what can they do? Iran has much more important tools. The people of Iran, the civilization, their history, their capacity about Islam and so on. In Saudi Arabia, Islam is in the state. Iranians have got the capacity to say to their Saudi friends, oh, my dear friend, I have got the experience of Islamic Republic. So what can be done and not done about Islam? Let's have a look at our history, recent history. So the capacity of Iran being independent, don't think about the superpower, China. Let's have good relations with China, with Russia, with all these countries, with the UK, with the US, no problem. But the problem of Iran is to make its own identity as a strong power, first step in the Middle East, with Iraq, Afghanistan. Iraq is a Shia country. Shiism is important. So Iran must have a positive action in Iraq, as well in Afghanistan. These poor people of Afghanistan, of Iraq. Iran is the only country able to help these brothers, in the neighbors. In Saudi Arabia, the same thing. So the experience of Iran brought peacefully in Saudi Arabia, in this country, may help the people of this country to find their own solution. So today, Africa is a huge challenge. Southern Asia is a huge challenge. The newcoming, the emerging countries are no longer the US. The US is a collapsing country. Europe is a collapsing continent. Russia, after the adventure of Putin and the war in Ukraine, what will be Russia in the next 10 years? China is important, India, of course, but they are outside of the game, too big. But Malaysia, Indonesia, South Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, of course, all this, Iraq is amazing, great country with a strong history of Mesopotamia. Unfortunately, the policy of Saddam Hussein has broken the history and the US, broken the dynamics of Iraq. Of Syria, the same. Iran can play a major role as a peaceful country with a strong, peaceful soft power to bring peace in the Middle East. And that would be a good outcome of Iranian history in the next century. A good outcome. To make some unity in the Middle East, it will be not so bad. Not so bad. Don't think about the US, about China, about Russia, about France. That's the history of 19th and 20th century. You are a country at the starting point of the 21st century with new political system, new ideological systems, new way of thinking. Let's think about emerging countries, not about collapsing countries. So Iran is an emerging country with a lot of problems, but emerging country with an emerging society, amazing emerging society. So, go on.
Why is it these ideas are taboo, where you bring them up? The person on the opposite, Iranian, whether they're Islamic, monarchists, modern. I talked to lawyers and doctors in the US that grew up there. They said, oh, the Baha'is, jasusing, this, why is that with us?
It's a matter of fact. It's a matter of fact. And sometimes the government, even the time of the Shah, they were using ideological minority. They use them for their own benefit. That's domestic political, dirty political issues, I think. new way of thinking, the Sufism, for instance, in Iran. Sufism is rooted in Iran. Of course, Sufis have got problems here and there, the Freemasons or Baha'is or others. Even inside the Shiism, Mr. Montazeri has got a lot of problems with Mr. Khomeini. So inside Shiism, there was a lot of people, free thinkers. So that you can find that in all the countries. What is important is that in Iran, all this new way of thinking has found in Iran a land where they can develop themselves. Baha'ism developed in Iran, but in a Western country, for instance, reformism, Protestant, grew up in Germany, in the time of Germany, where the most clever people were, and the political system was able to promote a new way of thinking, Christianism. And so in France, it was not possible. In France, with a strong central country, no other way of thinking was allowed. And the Catholics were only allowed in France. But the Protestants grew up somewhere. And these people went to the US and made the US the successful story it was. So Iran is a country where things are possible. Of course, with difficulties, with problems because of the political situation and so on, but a country where the experience has been done. The people of Iran are paying the experience, all of them, a country where officially Christian, Muslims, and Jews and Zoroastrian are allowed. Of course, other minorities should be allowed also, especially the Sunni. But it's an interesting point that should be developed to others. But Iran has got this crazy political identity. One MP, from MPs, Christian and Jews and Zoroastrian. That's no efficiency at the political level. But as a symbol, that's important. And this symbol can be used at a larger scale for other way of thinking. Freedom of speech, freedom of liberty of thinking. Iran has all the tools for liberty of thinking. Everything is there. But of course, for different reasons, the people in charge of the state are having their own agenda, and this the intellectual dynamics of the Iranian society are not able to be developed as far as we can.
Talk about the demographics that voted for Raisi and the contrast to the president before him. It was two complete different visions for Iran. How is it that after Rouhani, a president like Raisi can get elected?
He was not elected by the majority of the people. Something is very important. Election of Raisi is quite important. It was chosen by the system, and for the first time, 52% of people didn't take part of that. The most important, 14% voted but blank on invalid ballot. It means that they are Republican. In Iran, vote is important. So I made the revolution for Republic, Islamic Republic, but so I vote. Vote is important. So I take part in the vote, I vote. But I vote blank or void. That's important. That the people want a republic, and they want to take part in the republic, but not this republic. That's very clear. And so this election was quite important in the history of the last years. And
it wasn't a popular election.
But it was not 0%. No, Raisi has got a support, a strong support, not so bad. Not in France, Macron went like Raisi. He got 28% of the vote, less than Raisi, but he's president of French Republic. That's clear. So Raisi is a good civil servant. He's a pragmatic civil servant. He's not a political. He was he's just a tool. He's just a tool, and that's a problem. But maybe also it's important because as a tool, he can do something that an ideological man cannot do. Because his duty is to keep the power in the hand of the people having the power today and the money. That's its duty is there. But to reach this goal, what to do? Is the scarf and the job mandatory and the core of the system? For ideological people, yes, for the mullahs in Rome. But as a civil servant, if you want me to keep safe the regime, I think we can forget more or less the job. We can find a way. If you enter a mosque, of course, you put a job. You are in a mall in Tehran, no need. You go in the bazaar, southern Tehran, you have a escort, according to the location of the people around you. That's something usual. Something can be done that way. And so I think Raisi is a model. I don't think he's able, I don't know whether he will be able to do so or not. But he is, as a pragmatic, non-ideological person, only the servant of other people, other groups, he may be able to do something, to implement something. But the question is, he's not politically strong. He's not a strong mullah. He's not a strong RGC, Pasdaran, which are both the strong political power in Iran. He's only a middleman allowed to do the job, So in Iran, in my point of view, what is important? To have a strong person, Mr. Soleimani, which is dead, coming back. So I am Soleimani, I will do the job. And I allowed the ladies to go without a job in some places and to make some reform inside the system and keeping the system alone. There is no Soleimani on the market today, in my opinion. Is Raisi able to do something? I think he's too weak in the system. Maybe himself would like to do so, but it's not possible. Because around Khamenei, those who are ideological, they don't want the new GCPOA, they are scared of the new TPOA. They are scared of the software. And the RGC and the others, much more nationalistic, they think that if there is an opening, they will lose completely the independence of the country. They will lose all the capacities they have to rule the country. So, what may happen, I don't know. But what I know is that the foreign countries are imposing today sanctions on Iran, which are not military sanctions, but economic sanctions. So Iran is under the pressure of Western countries, not the British of the good old time, not the Russians of the good old times, but the US, but the international sanctions are imposed on the small country of Iran. Iran is a small country in the world. But all the world is against Iran because of sanctions. They have to implement sanctions. All the countries of the world. That's an amazing situation. Amazing situation. So I think for the timing, to make the people of Iran free again, and they have the capacity to do so, to take to have the regime they want, that's their own problem. But our duty, I think, in the international community is to lift the sanctions, which are not economic, they are political, economic, military, ideological, artistic, in all fields. Iran is under sanctions. My sanction as a French citizen, I don't accept that. So I support the French policy. If Macron could be efficient enough to say, Biden and others, please let us find a way to keep Iran under control. And this regime is a dirty regime, but it is in the hand of Iranian. Let us do something to make the people of Iran free again and able to change, to have the regime they want. That's a dream, wishful thinking, of course.
But kind of both is you can look at it both sides, but there's no doubting the movement, the unhappiness of the people, the young people. This didn't lead anywhere. But what did you make of this whole movement that came a couple of months and you know it sputtered out? But what was this?
I think it's a revolution, a cultural revolution. Cultural, I mean, all your body, all your guts. It's an existential revolution. And that's important because it is a never-ending revolution. That's important. Whatever the regime is, this revolution of the youth wanting to have liberty and a new way of living is in the making. And it will never end, whatever the political system is. In Iran, there was a political revolution with the Green Movement in 1909. People in Tehran made a huge demonstration. But it was to have, instead of Mr. Ahmadinejad, the Prime Minister of Mr. Khomeini, or Mr. Mousavi. So it was a problem inside the Islamic Republic. But a political event. Later, after the collapse of the GCPOA, economic riots. 3,000 people, 3 days of riots, especially in the south of Iran, and 1,000 people killed in 3 days. It was poor people in small cities, economic revolution. And now we have people on internet making a social revolution, a cultural revolution, and they are the youth. Not political, not economic, but cultural. Culture is much more important for Iran. The mullahs, the others, they have nothing to do with politics or with economy. But Islam is a matter of culture, of way of thinking, of living, of behavior. So a cultural revolution is directly against the way Islam is implemented in the system. So I think it's a deeper revolution than a simple political revolution, a regime change or a policy change. It's much more important. But for the time being, is how and who is able to unify the political, economic, and cultural revolution together. And I tried to study why the new middle class, which is important. The youth is not important, the people below 25 years old is very few. Since the number of children born, the majority of population in Iran is between 30 and 50 years old. People educated, well educated, having the experience of the revolution, their fathers have done the revolution. And this second generation is supporting, of course, their children for liberty. That's clear. 83% officially are supporting the revolt. But they cannot take part in it because I've got a job. I work for the government, for a company belonging to the IRGC, so I cannot afford to lose my job. So I don't take part for different reasons in the meeting. And of course, if Mr. Khomeini is going out, who will come instead of him? Somebody worse? Huh? Mr. Raisi, who did that job in Evin when he was young in 88. So Khomeini, we know him. So let's go on, and when there is no clear political answer to him, let's see. So that's the main question. Why these people didn't took part heavily in the demonstration? It's different reason, of course. So I have no answer. I tried as a researcher to see, but I have lots of questions. For instance, a demonstration in Karaj, but not in Islamshar, not in Quds, not in Ashgard, not in different suburb city of around Tehran, not in Islamshar especially. In Islamshar, the tradition of revolution and riots against the system several times. A hundred of people have been killed in Islamshar 15 years ago. These people are good Muslims, devoted to the Islamic Republic, and they want to be free, to have money and so on. They are insiders, but opposed to dictatorship. And they didn't move these days. Why? Maybe they move, I don't know, but as far as I know, they didn't. So
you were giving us some very interesting information on the demographics of the demonstrations. Could you please kind of elaborate a little bit more?
The demographic, yeah, I said, in the demonstration, with the data coming from Iran and from insiders opposed to the regime, and I found it on social networks. The 139 cities, Shahrestan, where there was some riots, the total of the population, the mean of the population is 400,000 people. So 400,000 people excuse me, go back. The cities where we have seen riots have an average of 100,000 inhabitants. The cities where there are no riots, excuse me, if we take the cities where there was no riot, we can find cities like Islamshar, for instance, 400,000 inhabitants with no riots. But the villages, the cities having riots were usually have a mean population of 400,000 people. In large cities, demonstration. Cities with at the other side, with no excuse me, and the other side, the cities with no demonstration are cities below 80,000 people. It means that in small cities, people didn't take part in the demonstration.
Why?
That's the question with $1 million. I give you my account and you pay me $1 million. I have no the answer. But I see that in 2019, 3 years ago, demonstration occurred for economic reasons in those cities. It means in a small city of 50,000, 100,000 inhabitants, people under the control of the system much more than higher maybe. So the repression is stronger, the control is stronger, but people are starving because of the sanctions. They have huge economic problems. They don't foresee any future, political future in the system. They don't dream. They see daily life and the problem of daily life. And so they didn't part in demonstration because of the threat of sanctions, of the police sanctions, that's clear, but because they don't think that there is any outcome for that. And for them, the priority is economy, is not their job. But in large cities, of course, 400,000 inhabitants as an average, people are much more educated, they can find much more easily a job, and they are thinking much more about liberty and a job and six sorts of problem. And of course, you can, the control of the police is much more difficult in large city. You can demonstrate here, and the police is on the side of the city. When they arrive, 1 hour later, people have gone somewhere else. So you can, the geography of the riots and the demonstration is different. But why in small cities they didn't take part in the demonstration, in large cities they did? Question, just question. Let's focus on that. Why? And the answer is not because the mullahs are dirty and the pasdaran are crazy guys. No. Please let us find strong, real answers. Not because I will be happy for this and that, but if we think as a democratic person, citizen, that liberty is important for the people of Iran, and people are looking for liberty, I will be very, very happy in Iran, not about a political regime change in Iran, I don't care, that's not my problem. But if in Iran, in this country I do love, people are free, I would like to help them to do so. And so to see why these people were not allowed to change the things in Iran. Let us see. In my opinion, in France, I have got some responsibility. I impose sanctions on people, and because of these sanctions, they cannot be free to demonstrate and to say what I want in Iran. And so that's a question.
You said that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you have some ideas running in your head. Can you give us some of your hypothesis? It doesn't have to be definitive.
Yeah, no.
A series of
the most important thing in Iran is that the core of Iran is no longer those people above 75 years old who made revolution, the war against Iran, my generation. I made revolution against the Shah. I made the war against Iraq. I was a winner. I was a Basij. I was stronger. And I am not so much educated. But my son, because I was a Basiji of the war, I get some help, and my son has got some fellowship to go to school and to be an engineer today. So my son is 40 years old. I'm very proud. He has got a good position. And this son has got three children. He has got strong problem, and especially he was employed by the French company, by Peugeot, as an engineer with a good salary. Over, no longer. Peugeot has left. And so this son, he says, well, oh, I had a good job. My father is thinking about revolution. So I'm not opposed to my father. I know that if I got my degree, it's because the help I had from the economic system, the political system, the fellowship I got from modern Mosazafan, more or less. And I am a good Muslim. I do like the mullahs of my neighborhood. So, of course, I want to go outside, but I am not like the people of Tehran. I don't speak English so well. I never had the money to go in France or in Italy to spend 2 weeks. It's too expensive. I cannot. My salary is good, but not so good enough to go outside. I have no international relations, even to move outside. I have no contact by email with others or by Twitter. I don't know anybody in Italy, in France, or Germany. Some friends, but not. and no international connections. So I try to do my best inside Iran. And so when my daughter wants to make demonstration and said, I want to, she's on Twitter and have some connection with whom I don't know. Okay, but for the time being, what can I do? Nothing. So these people are good Muslims, linked to the system, and they hope something better. But for the time being, they don't see any openings, they don't see any door open. And the door of outside, the foreign doors, since in Iran they think that everything is coming from outside. There's nothing good in Iran, and the positive things are coming from outside. From outside, there are dirty things coming from outside. Sanctions are coming from outside. I cannot have help anymore for the French, for Peugeot. I was a member of Peugeot in a contract with them, they left. So I don't trust any longer with these guys. Nothing good can come from France any longer. That's over. That's over. I don't trust in them. I don't speak about the British or the US. Obama had done something, Trump did the contrary, and Biden is not able to change the policy of Trump. So who are these people? I don't trust in them. So no hope from outside. What can I do from inside? I don't know. I don't know. But, so I don't know.
I hear you, and I feel that when I talk to people in Iran. I don't expect you to fortune tell what the future is, but we know Khomeini is older, he's not doing well health-wise. How is that how do you think that transition to a new leader will affect the country?
I think first we have to, if you don't agree with somebody or someone, you have to see him, to challenge him, to fight against him. If you want to fight him, you have to meet him, to shake hands with him, and then you wash your hand if you want, but you have to cope with the people. So discussing with the regime, pushing pressure on all fields, demonstrations is not enough. So we have to, for instance, imposing the new JCPOA to these people who are opposed to JCPOA could be a victory. Khomeini is opposed to the JCPOA. If he has, for different reasons, to sign it again, it will be a victory for the people of Iran against the hardliners. So we need to discuss, to be in Brussels or in Vienna, to force them to sign the new JCPOA. We have to go with them, to deal, to meet with them, important. Second point, if we want a change, we have to discuss, of course. Some friends told me, no, we want them to go. I don't want to see them. Oh, they are there. They kill you. So you have to fight with them. So we shall see inside the regime who is able to say, oh, we shall go another way. So we can see today, Ghalibaf, for instance, the head of the Majlis, telling the government should apologize for the death of Amini, of Massa Amini, and give money to her parents for the death of their daughter, things like that. We know Ghalibaf is a strong man, former general of the past Tehran, and so on and so forth. But he would like to save the system. He would like to save his own constituency. So maybe he can be, or him, or somebody else like him, can be a person able to say, Mr. Khamenei, you are the greater in the world, but please go aside.
Do you think the next leadership, the next Vali Fari will be
Vali
more,
Fari.
will be more hardline?
What Vali, what Fari? For instance, nobody is stronger than Mr. Khamenei. He is in the world one of the most experienced policymakers. He is at the head of the state, more or less, since the last 44 years. And he was able to manage quite well this country, more or less, compared to the others. Compared to Iraq, to Syria, and the others. Not so bad. Not so bad. So, the next leader...
Which direction?
Don't care. Nobody will be able to have the strength of Imam Khomeini or Khamenei. So it could be you and me. No, doesn't care. No, anybody will have never the strength of the previous one. So I don't care who he will be a cleric with an imam on his head. He will be on a chair. He will be the best man in the world. So that's all. He will be the Queen of England. You can really have a Queen of England, not changing a word in the constitution of Iran. The Queen of England is the head of everything, the church, the army, everything. And she's the Queen of England. And because the revolution in the 16th century, the Queen of England is ruling but not governing the country. So you can have a Queen of England in Iran. I am joking, of course, but it could be, in any case, the new leader will not have the strength of Mr. Khamenei. So democratic or not democratic, he will have to do the job. As the leader, he will have to do, this is not Islamic, in any case. So I don't care with that. I don't care. The next leader will be a weak leader in any case. So who will be stronger than this leader who is collapsing? IRGC, maybe, they are strong new power, but among IRGC, you have got different population. And among the IRGC, who was the Sardars of Pazaran? They were students of the beginning revolution, supporting the revolution against the Shah, fighting against Saddam Hussein, the French and the British and the German in the war. Afterwards, they got their PhDs at level. They got some companies to live. They would like to find Iran as a strong, brilliant, modern country and free also, Republican. And they oppose to the mullahs. Two groups of people are ruling the country today. The religious people and the Pasdaran. They are two social, cultural, different groups with different constituency, different life, different things, different ethnicity. And for the time being, we know that the mullahs will stay. After revolution, people will remain Shi'i, and we'll have mosque and Friday prayer in Iran. That's clear. Islam will remain in Iran in one way. But the others are there. And so I don't see any political force, any other political force than the Pasdaran to take the power, to have the strength to control the country, to prevent a civil war. To prevent civil war. That's important. And also the Islamic technocrats. The system is working in Iran because you have a lot of people, good technocrats, good Muslims, devoted to the regime much more as needed, maybe. And these people also, they are not Pasdaran, they are not clerics, but taking the power from both of them and trying to own their own constituency, to have got their own power. It is the third pillar of the regime. But none of them is strong enough to rule the situation. Napoleon, again, a new Napoleon in Iran. I think it will be very tough, very difficult. But in France, we had revolution, First Republic, Napoleon came, dictatorship, the king was back, Republican king, and then the second Republic after 50 years of upheavals. And the Republic vote was chosen with a majority of one vote in 71, one vote, voted for the Republic instead of monarchy. But in that time, the French society was completely changing, the new bourgeoisie was coming, France became an industrial country, one of the best countries in science and culture in the 19th century. So the French regime was on one side, and the French society on the other side. In Iran, the political history is important. I think the social history is much more important. But of course, for the happiness of the people of Iran, it would be nice if the regime was a little bit less strong. It would be nice.
What is your take on the Iranians?
The Iranians?
Yeah. What do you think of us?
First, you are lucky of being Iranian. Iranians are lucky to live in such a country. So, and then a little bit upset, sad about the fact that in Iran there is so many opportunities that people until now have not chosen a right way. And then a lot of revolution occurred, and the revolution have been stolen every time. And the next one is in the making. My question is, who will hijack the new revolution the people of Iran are making today, in the making? So I think that this country, Iranians are too kind, too poets, they dream of Hafez. The dream Hafez also is the enemy of revolution in one way. He was fighting against Mongol, but and Iranians are so find their way, even if the system is dirty, if the whole world is against them, they find their way to live as well as they can. With poetry, with drink of wine, Tariaq, poetry, wine, friends, and let's live in our corner, you know. It's a good philosophy of life, maybe. But I think today is different. The new generation of Iran are different. They want to take the power in the world, not taking the land of the others, but being one of the most important soft power in the world. So for the first time in history of Iran, the power will not come from the top, from Dariush, Kourosh, or Shah Kabir or Mr. Khomeini, but the power will come from inside the population. What will be the political translation of that, I don't know. This is in the hand of the Iranians. But this is a new way of making a revolution, a strong revolution from the guts.